So I just want to say good evening and welcome to our Parent Leadership Series, Big 10 Big, Big 10 Medium, and Big 10 Small College Panel. I'm Dr. Valerie McCall. I'm the Director of Educational Equity here in West Aurora. And I also oversee our Parent Leadership Series and work alongside of Mrs. Fowler, who is our College and Career Readiness Coordinator, as well as Mr. Gap-Button, and they are both responsible for organizing this fantastic event for you this evening. So I want to say thank you to both of them for organizing this event. Tonight, we also have Mrs. Brenda Gonzalez joining us, who is our Translation Services Specialist. Mrs. Gonzalez will be translating our meeting in Spanish. So Mrs. Gonzalez, can you please let our participants know what they will need to do if they need to hear you in Spanish? Thank you, Mrs. Gonzalez. And now, without any further ado, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mrs. Fowler.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We have a great panel presenting tonight. Excited for that. Mr. Gap-Button?
Yes, hi, good evening. I'm Ryan Gap-Button. I'm a school counselor as well as a scholarship coordinator on the College and Career Readiness team. And we are excited to have you view this, wonderful opportunity to understand the different opportunities and different styles, and as well as different experiences you might have with these three different colleges. So thank you for joining us. But I'd like to acknowledge and turn over the attention to Steve John. He's our lead counselor, and if it wasn't for him, our college and career curriculum team wouldn't exist. So Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, thank you all. This is an exciting night for us. We love doing things like this, and all of us educators and college personnel are excited about helping young students think about their futures, different opportunities that they have. It's very complicated and nerve-wracking at times, but the more information you have, the better off we are. So there's no age group. We're never too young to start thinking about these things, and we're excited to have all the representatives that we have, and the idea of representing large schools, medium schools, small schools is super important to figuring out a right fit for us as students, figuring out all the logistics of college planning. So the evening's program is exciting for all of us involved. So we have Josephine West from the Ohio State University, Scott Hillman from the University of Oklahoma, and Catherine Handcamp from St. Norbert College. So thank you all for being here, and we really appreciate the information that you are about to share with our students that we're able to pass along and get going. So we will share different information regarding academics, college life, advice, financial information, and all that good stuff. So the more information we have, the better to be equipped to make good decisions on what we do after high school. So I will turn this over to Josephine West from Ohio State University, and please share your knowledge, expertise, and information with us.
Well, thank you so much. My name is Josephine West. I'm with The Ohio State University. We are a Big 10 Division I school in Columbus, Ohio. And I'm really excited to be here to speak to you tonight. And really, I'm going to come from the point of view of the bigger schools and the Big 10. But a little bit about The Ohio State University. As I said, we are one of the top public universities in the country, in the top 15, with our business in number 7 in the country, and engineering number 12, nursing, education in the top 3. So you're going to have a valuable degree when you graduate from The Ohio State University, as well as the most living alumni. So more than any other university in the world, there are more living Buckeyes. And it's very true that no matter where you go, you will run into a Buckeye. So we have over 550,000 living alumni. We are located in Columbus, Ohio, which is really a benefit because Columbus is the 14th largest city. So you can go about 8 minutes and do an internship with a Fortune 100 or Fortune 500 company, or go 7 minutes and work in the Capitol building because Columbus is also the capital. So those are just a few facts about the Ohio State. I'm going to come to from the point of the bigger schools. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kat, who's going to tell you a little bit about St. Norbert.
Thanks, Josephine. Hi, everyone. I'm Kat Hankamp. I am the Chicago Regional Counselor for St. Norbert College, which we're located just 3 hours north of the Chicagoland area. We're up in the suburbs of kind of Green Bay. So for our students, one of the things, like many small schools, we're located in a suburban location, very close to a large city. So we're with many small schools, you're going to be either in a rural setting or you're going to be more in a suburban setting. There aren't too many small schools that are going to fit into a large city, which you do have access at many of them to be at that. That personally was one of the big reasons why I personally chose St. Norbert College, is because it was that perfect distance, that 3 hours away, tons to do right around campus, has that kind of college town feel, but then also lots to do right around campus with that large city, which is great opportunity for internships and things like that. I'm going to be coming from the perspective of a small school. We'll talk a little bit about what that means. Some things about St. Norbert aside from our location. We are a private and Catholic institution. More importantly, we always talk about our Norbertine heritage, which the Norbertines are really well known for, these ideals of radical hospitality and communio. So something that when you do visit campus, you get a good sense of a very welcoming, inclusive community that you get on our campus, and a lot of opportunities for service. That's one thing to kind of keep in mind too with smaller schools and specifically private institutions, because we are not really state funded. We will tend to, more often than not, maybe have a religious affiliation. Not all small schools will, but a good chunk will have some sort of a religious affiliation. So if faith life is important to you, that's something you can definitely continue to grow in on a small school experience as well. We have done over $150 million in renovations to campus. So believe me when I say we keep up with the big schools as far as facilities that are on our campus. We're actually the only small liberal arts college in the country with a medical school right on campus. So if you are interested in the medical field, we do have a medical school on our campus that our students can go to right after St. Norbert. So it's something that is pretty cool to our experience. I know Scott will take over the food portion of it, but I always like to mention St. Norbert, as far as facts go for us, we've actually been ranked #1 in Wisconsin for best food in the state on a college campus, and #4 in the nation. So pretty good with that. With that, I'll turn it over to Scott to talk a little bit about Oklahoma, and then we'll start talking a little bit more about campus size and everything like that. Thanks.
Thank you, Kat. My name is Scott Hillman, and I am the Chicago-based admissions counselor for the University of Oklahoma. We do go by OU for short because saying the University of Oklahoma over and over again tends to be a mouthful and can get just to be long. So OU for short. OU is going to represent the middle-sized institutions. So when we share some numbers here tonight, you're definitely going to see the difference between a small school and a big school, and then how a medium-sized school will kind of fit right in the middle there and how it all works together. So OU is definitely going to be a mid-size or maybe an upper mid-size, because a medium-sized school could be a variety of schools and ranges and things like that. OU is located in Norman, Oklahoma. So we are in the suburbs of Oklahoma City. Only takes about 20 to 25 minutes to get downtown from campus. So it's a really easy drive. Traffic down in the Oklahoma City area is nothing than what we used to, or we are used to up here in the Chicago area. So it's a really true 20, 25 minute drive to get there. It would be about a 20-minute drive from campus to the airport. So most students looking to visit campus or current students coming home for the holidays and things like that, usually flying in and out. So 20 minutes to get to the airport. There are direct flights from O'Hare and Midway, and you can get there with a variety of options there, and usually about an hour and a half, 2 hour flight at most, usually an hour and a half. So really easy flight too. Otherwise, it'd be about a 12-hour drive. So not right around the corner. OU is a part of the Big 12 conference. Most schools in the Big 12 conference are actually going to be a medium-sized school. And we're all going to be located in a similar part of the US. So most Big 12 schools are in Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. So kind of that south central part of the United States. So not right around the corner like Wisconsin and Ohio, but not too far away. And we'll talk about distance and how picking schools that might be farther away tonight. Some fun facts about OU. We have 38 national championships with athletics. That could be everything from, football to basketball, baseball, basketball, softball, things like that. Our men's and women's gymnastics team have won national championships in back-to-back years. So some really great athletic teams on our campus. It's not just about athletics, and we'll also talk about that tonight, but just a fun fact I like to share to get things started. We also, as Kat mentioned, have a fun food fact about OU. We have the world's only all-you-care-to-eat Chick-fil-A. So right on campus in the dining hall where our students would be eating for living on campus, there's all sorts of different stations. So you'll find like a salad station, a dessert station, a cereal bar, so lots of other different things like that. And then also a Chick-fil-A. So because it's all you can eat or all you care to eat, you can go fill up on all the chicken sandwiches and fries that you want, if that is what you are looking for that day, or even again later on that day. So that's just a fun fact about OU and a little bit more about the university. But we're going to start diving a little bit further in depth about the sizes, how many students attend our schools. And to get that started, we're going to start off with Kat.
We're going to start with the smallest, and work our way up. So smaller schools, when we talk about campus size, we are really looking at the undergraduate population, right? So at a small school, that is going to typically be anything less with the undergraduate population of around 5,000 or less students. There are some small schools out there that may only have 700 students, 1,000 students, 1,500. St. Norbert fits into this range by being about 2,000 students total on our campus. One thing that we really kind of highlight at the small schools is that it's really individualized attention. That is really one of the things that you get on one of our campuses. So your average class size is going to be either 19 to 20 students, with your largest class on a small school around 30 students. So think about how you learn. And how important it is for you to connect with your faculty. Not that you're not going to be able to do that at larger schools as well. It's just one of those things that because your student faculty ratio is usually smaller and you're in that small classroom setting, you're able to really connect and have those relationships with your faculty. Quite often, and myself included, I actually would have dinner at some of our faculty members' house where they would meet you for coffee. So that's something that you can see as an experience on a small school scale. The other thing to keep in mind is that at small schools, we don't have these large graduate populations. You'll hear from some of my friends here that they'll talk about these graduate populations they have. And although St. Norbert has a medical school on its campus, majority of our students are there. It's the 2,000 students there to study that undergraduate program and get their bachelor's degree and prepare themselves to go on to a graduate program. So maybe you might start out at a small school like St. Norbert and then end up at an Oklahoma or an Ohio State after to go on to some of those graduate programs. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit too, but it's a little bit about the class size that you're going to, or class size and campus size at our schools.
So moving over to a medium-sized school, at OU specifically, we have 22,000 undergraduate students. So definitely a lot larger than St. Norbert College and small schools. Kat mentioned that small schools are usually going to have 5,000 students or less. So you might find a medium-sized institution saying they're 8,000, 12,000 students. So maybe a lower mid-size. And then you might find schools like OU that are saying that around 22,000 and what we would say maybe an upper mid-size. I would say that it can be a large range, but one thing to know with that is that our average class size is 32 students. So even though we have 22,000 undergraduate students, our average class is 32. That's going to be common at other Big 12 schools, and other medium-sized schools are same size. At OU, 96% of the classes that we offer have 100 students or less in them. So that means on the flip side, only 4% have 100 students or more. So it won't be those extra large lecture halls like you see in TV shows and in movies with hundreds and hundreds of students in there, and the lecture halls like 2 or 3 stories, tall. So it won't be like that. Again, average class size 32 students. Our student to faculty ratio is 18:1. So again, really nice classroom sizes. You'll get to know your professors, you get to know your teachers very well. So like Kat was mentioning, forming relationships with them on a small school's campus, you can also do that on a medium-sized campus. With our classroom sizes, that also means you're going to get to know other students pretty well in your classes, especially once you're in your major. So you get to make friends, connections, maybe students that you'll do similar internships with or go off and look for certain jobs with, and do fun things like that on campus together too. So it adds for a nice community and really makes the learning environment not too large and not too overwhelming. When you add in our graduate student population, we're about 31,000. So that starts to make us a little bit of a larger institution. But again, majority of the students at our school are going to be those undergraduate students. So that's typically what a medium-sized school would look like when you start breaking down the population.
Yeah, and then I'm going to talk to you about a larger school. So in the Big Ten, the smaller of the Big Ten would be University of Iowa at about 27,000. So there you see we're already getting bigger to us at the Ohio State University at 47,000. So you can see that that is a lot of students. But I promise you, once you get on our campus, it does not feel like it. So there is no point where you're ever overwhelmed with students. And it really shows because our faculty to student ratio is still 19:1. And most of the Big Tens average about 20:1 faculty to student ratio. 80% of your classes will be less than 50 students. 100% of your classes will be professor taught. So those are always things we like to emphasize, is that, you can make a large school smaller. And it really, really shows because our retention rate, so from freshman year to sophomore year, the freshmen that come back sophomore year is 95%. So of the Big Ten, that is, we're all around 90% and above. So that really does show you that a bigger school can feel smaller. So, even though we have those larger class sizes, what we also have in the bigger institutions in the Big Ten would be a large undergraduate population. So where we're 47,000 undergrad, with graduate students, we're about 65,000. So we have them all of the Big Tens have a medical school on campus, a law school on campus. We have a dental school, PharmD, vet school. So not all have those. We also have, so we have all those professional programs too. So you would you'd see students who are also going to medical school because there's a hospital on our campus, cancer center on our campus, airport on our campus. So you may just find a little bit more variety. And we're going to go into majors in a minute, but that will kind of show you that you still have that faculty to student ratio that's a little lower. And now we're going to kind of go into majors.
Yeah, so we're talking about classroom sizes and what average classroom sizes is, graduate programs, all those things there. So let's start talking about majors, what you can study at all of our schools. You will find there, small, medium, and large will have a different number of programs that we offer, and we'll share those stats. But regardless of that, there are going to be majors that you'll find at all of our institutions. So OU has 170 major options. So there's lots of different things to choose from. And some of those things could be like English, psychology, biology. Those are going to be ones you're going to find at all three of our schools, all small schools, medium schools, big schools. So some things will be similar, but again, 170 programs at OU. So there are lots of options to look into. You might find that some schools have majors that are very specific and unique, maybe based on where they're located. So OU in Oklahoma, if you think of Oklahoma, severe weather, tornadoes, unfortunately, those things go hand in hand. So we have a very, very good meteorology program. The National Weather Center actually has a station on our campus, and that kind of just helps with where we're located. So that is a strong program with that. Iowa State is in the Big 12 and has similar location, severe weather, and they have a good meteorology program as well. We have a petroleum engineering program, which is pretty unique. And if you think of where petroleum is located and the geography behind all of that, we have a strong program like that. The University of Texas at Austin does as well. So they're also in the Big 12. So those are things to think about that maybe based on where you're looking to go, or a different part of the United States, geographic region might offer different programs based on where they're located. So that's kind of a nice thing to look into. You might find some unique programs based on the different schools. OU is a tier 1 research institution. So basically what that means is we're one of the more active or most active research universities in the nation. So we're doing research, things outside the classroom. It doesn't have to be science related, working in labs with chemicals and things like that. It could be doing different studies and things like that, whether it's meteorology, whether it's dance, education, doing studies on how kids develop and learn and process things. That could be a whole research study within itself. So you're going to find research opportunities at all of our schools, but OU is a very active research institution. We also then have graduate programs too. So things like medical school, dental school, physician's assistant, physical therapy. I mean, a lot of things that you might be looking to study at any of our schools as a pre-med student or pre-dental student. We also then have those graduate programs too. So kind of as a nice exposure that we have on our campus. So we do have things like that. We have an honors college, which we'll talk about and give a little more information so you know what an honors college looks like. But when it comes to medium-sized schools, that's kind of what we are looking like when it comes to programs.
Yeah, and when it comes to a larger school, generally the smaller of the Big 10, bigger schools is about 180 majors, all the way up to us at OSU, which we have about 200 plus majors, and then we have 250 customizable majors. So you could kind of take a little bit from one major and a little bit from another major and kind of create your own major. So lots of majors to choose from. Definitely, we're seeing more students double major. So we are seeing students come over with that 3 or better on the AP exam, and therefore they're coming in with credit hours. So we are seeing more students double major, and definitely can do a nice combination of a major minor combination. So lots for you to choose from. At all of our schools, just look kind of in depth as to what you want to do, because it could be listed differently. So a major like visual for trying to think graphic arts or graphic design at our school is visual communications. So they may just be worded different. The other thing too is if you have no idea what you want to do, it is fine. 50% of students change their major, and our most popular major at all 3 of our institutions is undecided. And so you can still come in as undecided and graduate in 4 years. At all of the Big 10, we do have an honors college, as Scott mentioned, and this is just the highest academics you can get. You would apply for this right on your application. It would definitely bring your classroom size smaller, about 12, 14 to 1, a lot more research emphasis, and you would graduate with honors distinction. If that interests you, look at our websites. The other thing too, as Scott mentioned, we are also, all the Big 10 are tier 1 research institutions with a big emphasis in research. And you can definitely do research as early as freshman year. So if you're interested in research, that is something you can do on our campus. We actually have 2 institutes, research institutes in the top 12 in the country. So major focus on research. And as I mentioned, we have those professional programs. So we have pre-med, pre-law, pre-physical therapy. So you have all of those. So you'd have 2 advisors. You'd have a pre-med advisor who will help you get all your prereqs for medical school. And let's say your biology, you'd have a biology advisor. So, we have all of those programs as well on our campuses. So now Kat's going to talk to you about smaller schools.
Yeah, no, with a smaller school, I always kind of make the joke that if you're overwhelmed with volume, we can bring it a little bit lower. You have less to choose from at a smaller school. That doesn't mean that it's bad and you can't find a good major. It just means we're not going to have the volume that you are because we don't have as many students that are going in many different directions. So most small schools are going to have anywhere from, 80 to 100 different programs that you can get into. St. Norbert has about 80 different majors that you can choose from. And you also have the option at many schools as well to select to really kind of build your own major. So we have one called our independent studies where you can actually, or integrative studies, I'm sorry, where you are working with faculty across multiple disciplines to create a major that if you want to get into it, and maybe the school doesn't specifically have it, but you really like that school, you can make sure that you can go that route and maybe are going into a graduate program after you're graduating from a school like St. Norbert. So you are going to have less majors to choose from. The thing that we have always talked about as well is that you don't have to have it figured out day one. So don't feel like coming into college, you need to know exactly what you want to major in, especially at small schools. A lot of small schools are considered liberal arts institutions. And this is probably a term you've heard. Maybe you're not familiar with it, but liberal arts, when we talk about that, is not liberal in the sense of political standing. It's really more liberal in the sense that we want you to learn for the sake of learning and take classes that you're interested in to grow in your knowledge. So you're developing skills that are very transferable from one career path to another. So whether you're coming to study business, or you're going to be a doctor, or you want to be a teacher, you're going to go into psychology, whatever that path actually is for you, you're going to walk out of our school with the ability to think critically, to communicate well, to have leadership experience, problem solving. You're going to be a good steward in your community. These are all things that you're going to develop while you're sitting in your classes, because you're not just taking classes in your specific major, you're taking classes in a wide variety of areas. So that's also another thing with when you are coming in decided, you can start out taking a class or two in an area to see if you're interested in that. And if you're not, it's easily able to make sure that you're still able to stay on track to graduate in 4 years. Like Josephine mentioned, advising is huge. We, for example, have our students working with a faculty advisor. So you are paired with a faculty member in your major. So someone you're going to have multiple times in class that's going to help you select your courses for the next semester, and really just make sure you're staying on track to graduate in 4 years and that you're prepared for life after college. We've mentioned research as well. Although a small school is typically not a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 research institution, that is something that's absolutely going on our campuses as well. So our faculty, their number one priority are their students, but also are involved in that research as well. So that's something you can start out as early as your freshman year too. Again, honors programs, things like that. One thing we always mention, just make sure you're finding out what schools have to offer major-wise. Take a list of what all of those 100 programs or 200 programs and cross off the ones that you think are really just not a good fit for you. It's a great way to really pare down that list and maybe not feel so overwhelmed when you are looking at a large list of programs at a school. Now, college really isn't just about sitting in a classroom and taking classes and taking tests and writing papers and all of that. Campus life is really, I think, what makes your college experience. It's meeting people, it's developing leadership skills by being the president of a fraternity or sorority, anything like that. So that campus culture is really important to the school that you decide to choose. We're going to start out with Josephine talking a little bit about what campus life is like on a large institution.
Yeah, so as Kat mentioned, and we're really close, I call her Kat, so sorry about that. But it's a major fit. It's a fit, so you really should visit. And that's where campus life comes in. And it's a financial fit. So you need to make sure you're getting all of those. So as for your fit, it's getting involved in clubs and organizations. So we are an academic powerhouse, and we're also an athletic powerhouse. And I beat Scott to that. So we are an athletic powerhouse. So tons of Big 10 sports to watch. We won 6 national titles last year. So it's tons of fun to watch. But, our scouts are out there, D1, they're recruiting. And so let's say, you still want to do sports. We have what's called club sports, and club sports are a little bit more competitive, and you play other schools. And so if you can still have that competitiveness, and then we have intramurals, which is just a ton of fun. You play amongst your fellow, school, your friends. And, so if you want to stay in the sports, you can definitely do club and intramurals. But we have over 1,300 clubs and organizations on our campus. So no matter what you want to do, I'm sure we have a club for you. And if we don't, which I'd be surprised, you can actually create your own club with five students and a faculty member. So we also have Greek life. So all of the Big 10 do have Greek life. And so for us, Greek Row is just a little off campus, and we rush second semester of our freshman year. We do have what's called live and learning communities. So this is where you would live in the same dorm with students with similar majors as you. This way, you might have a class with a student, you could study downstairs, and it's just another way of making our big campus small. As I mentioned, athletics and clubs. So, the only sport you're really going to have to pay for would be football and basketball. And football, I'm really jealous because you get all the games for like $130, and I pay $130 for one ticket, and I've been here forever. So you get a nice deal on the football tickets, and basketball is like $10 or $12. So, but you can go to anything else for free, and then also study abroad. So part of campus life that I think is so important would be for you to take advantage of that study abroad option. So it's something I really wish I did that I did not. This is where you can actually go to another country and study. And you're literally paying the same tuition you'd pay as if you're studying on our campus. We also have where you can intern in another country. So for example, we have a lot of business students who are interning in London and a lot of engineering students who are interning in Germany. So definitely take advantage of that because you'd be paying the same as if you were on our campus taking that class. The only difference is you'd have travel costs, but we have a lot of grants and scholarships for that. So I do encourage you right away, no matter what school you go to, looking to study abroad. And now we're going to go ahead and have Kat talk about on a smaller campus.
Thanks. I'm actually going to start in reverse and start with study abroad because honestly, it's the best experience you can have. And I know it sounds kind of funny. We're talking about going to another country when we're trying to talk about our campus life. We're telling you to like leave our campus. But truthfully, it's one of the best experiences you can have for yourself. I went and did a semester abroad when I was a student, studied in London, did an internship while I was there. And it really, you get immersed in a culture. You can really learn a lot about yourself. You travel, you really grow up, and it's this great time where you really aren't tied down to a lot in life. You just are taking your classes, maybe doing an internship and exploring another part of the world. So as Josephine said, at pretty much every school, it's part of what you're paying for to attend that school. And it's an advantage that you can really take, that we hope you take full advantage of. If you don't want to go for a full semester, maybe that's not something you're interested in, you can always start by getting your feet wet by doing what we would consider on our campus a global seminar, which is a faculty-led trip where a faculty member takes, maybe 15, 20 students to another location. So one of our honors programs went to study food ethics in the Philippines. We had students go to Buenos Aires for a creative writing course. So it's really just an opportunity for you to just go for a short period of time rather than a full semester. So something to think of. Now, as far as campus culture on a small school, you're not going to have like 1,300 clubs and organizations to belong to, because obviously that would be like almost a club per student at that point. That would be fun. So we have probably about 100 plus clubs and organizations. And when I say 100 plus, I really mean it varies every year. There are clubs that are more popular, there are clubs that are less popular, and sometimes they disappear because the number of students gets lower, but there's always clubs popping up. Like Josephine said, it's really easy to start clubs and organizations. The most important thing is when you are doing your college search, think about what you've been involved in, what you've enjoyed doing. And I know it's been a little bit different in a year of a pandemic where you haven't maybe had the opportunity to be as involved, but what you enjoy, and find out if those schools offer those opportunities. If you want to do service, is that something you can easily do? If you want to do, be a part of Greek life, at a small school, that maybe not an option at many small schools. St. Norbert does have Greek life, so we're kind of in the minority in that sense. And then you have all these other things that are maybe cultural clubs and organizations. I always love to highlight, we have about 24% of our students at St. Norbert that are first generation students. We actually have an organization that is specifically for first generation students that you're paired with a mentor who is another first generation upperclassman, a faculty and staff member that are part of that group. Just really another kind of added opportunity for you to have someone to go to if you have any questions, because we get it, this is maybe your first time and your first person in your family going off to college. So something to think about being involved in as well. So you won't have the volume, but you are going to have some great opportunities for involvement. I also like to highlight campus life as well as far as residential life. St. Norbert is a very unique school in the sense that we require our students to live on campus all 4 years. At many schools that you'll look at, you'll maybe only have to live on campus for 1 year or maybe 2 years. At St. Norbert, you would actually be spending all 4 years on campus, and not in just a traditional resident hall where it's you and a roommate sharing room, bathroom for the floor. You would move into more apartment style, townhouse, or actual homes that the school owns. So it does feel like you're more of off campus. You're about a 2-block walk from the main academic buildings and all of that, but you still get that feeling of being off campus. And that's something I know, me personally, coming from out of state, I loved about our campus. It creates that campus culture. So that's also something important to think about when you are looking at schools. And then lastly, athletics. Smaller schools are going to be either D2 or D3 athletics. So maybe a little bit easier to get recruited at St. Norbert than it is Ohio State, just a little bit. But it's something that if you are an athlete and you want to be involved in athletics, you can definitely consider working with our coaches to see if you would be a good fit for one of our athletic teams. We also have a lot of school spirit, so you are still maybe not going to have that large of a game day feel as you would at a larger or mid-sized school, but you still have that opportunity for our students to have a lot of pride on our campus. And we've actually won 5 national championships. We've been in men's hockey, so if you love hockey, we'd be a great fit for you that way too. So now I'll turn it over to Scott to talk a little bit about more what a mid-sized school is going to look like.
Yeah, so we're hearing numbers of student organizations at a small school, maybe around 100, at a large school, maybe around 1,300. OU is going to fall right in the middle there, 550 student clubs and organizations. So you can kind of see small, medium, and large, just the larger size school, maybe the more volume of student organizations, but plenty of opportunities to get involved. I think Josephine mentioned starting clubs is pretty easy on all of our campuses too. So you can start new organizations that might not be there already, which is great. And then even within student clubs and organizations, you might find small and medium large groups on one campus. So you might have a student group that only has 4 or 10 members, so pretty small, or maybe a larger sorority of 150 members, so it could be larger. Our student government at OU has it's a pretty complex organization. There's a lot of different committees and leadership positions and things to get involved. So even within student government, which is technically one organization, there could be multiple ways to get involved and have leadership positions and all that good stuff. So lots of different ways to get involved in all of our campuses and start new orgs as well. We are an athletic school, an athletic powerhouse, as Josephine has said, for Ohio State. We are a Division I athletic school, so Big 12. Our Baylor Bears just won the men's national championship for March Madness for basketball, so it's exciting that our fellow Big 12 guys just won that. So OU is currently the Big 12 champions for football. On our campus, we only charge student pricing for tickets for football and men's basketball. Otherwise, all the other home games are free to go to. So I mentioned our men's and women's gymnastics team are very, very good. You can go watch a meet. Our women's basketball team made it to March Madness this year, so they also do very well. You can go to their games for free. So they're really nice things to do on campus, whether you're an athlete, to be a part of club sports and intramural sports, or just go and attend the game, or if it's a nice day outside, go watch a baseball game for free. So why not take advantage of that? We do have study abroad at OU. About 30% of our students participate in study abroad, so almost 1/3. So we're getting pretty close to having that 33%. So as Josephine and Kat have mentioned, a wonderful opportunity to take your college experience, go abroad when you don't have to worry about taking vacation days off of work and planning who's going to watch your kids or your dog and your future life and how to manage all of that. You can go away in a semester or for a couple weeks and study abroad. So it's a great part of our campus life. Another thing to talk about campus life and living on campus and campus resources is going to be, like health services on campus. All of our schools are going to have different health services, whether it be a clinic if you are feeling like you have the flu or you roll your ankle, or if you need to get prescriptions filled. We're going to have pharmacies on our campus as well. And then we're also going to have mental health services on all of our campuses. So if you need to talk to a counselor and have one-on-one counseling sessions, you're going to find that at small schools, big schools, medium schools. Most schools will also offer free counseling hours, so you don't have to pay for it as a student. So you can get that free assistance, somebody to talk to address any mental health things that you are working through. We have those services on our campus. Sometimes the mental health services offices will do like group sessions and things like that too. So there's going to be a variety of things that they offer. I mentioned that all the health services, because they've always been around on our campuses for years and years and years, but especially this past year as we go through and live through a pandemic, those services have been very popular, whether it be students not feeling well or just dealing with living in a virtual space in a global pandemic that happens once in a lifetime, and needing somebody to talk through that and maybe talk through some of the things you're dealing with mentally and emotionally. So our students have definitely utilized on all of our campuses those resources and taken advantage of them. And have done so this past year and will continue to do so. So we just like to point that out while we're talking about campus life. While we're talking about COVID and this pandemic we've been living through, we also like to point out that we did address it as best as possible. Ohio State and Oklahoma, we did a hybrid schedule. So some students had some virtual classes and then some in person. So it wasn't completely remote. So we tried to give them as many in-person options as possible, but not fully in person. Kat at St. Norbert College, the students there, they were fully in person all year round. So that has benefited them that they were able to go to classes and be in person for all of their classroom settings. All of our student groups have been able to do programming and things like that. Maybe it looked a little bit differently, but still have active student bodies this past year. So students could have as much of a normal student life experience, even though we've been living through a pandemic. Last couple things about COVID is that all of our schools are open for tours right now. And so if you are able to go visit tours or visit campuses for tours, I know we have our tour dates available now through the end of July. So definitely go sign up to visit schools, visit them so you can see what they're doing. I think more and more schools are starting to open up for campus tours now. So just know that are opportunities for you. And then all three of our schools have committed to being in person fully in the fall. So for juniors, we would definitely be in person by the time you end up on our campus and then beyond. But just know that is how we've been able to address it, have our students have as much of a quote unquote normal experience without living through a pandemic on our campuses, and then how we're looking at managing that moving forward. Moving forward, we're going to now talk about some misconceptions about our schools and maybe some different things as it relates to our sizes, our locations, things like that. And Catherine is going to start us out.
Thanks, Scott. So yeah, one of the misconceptions I think I hear the most from students looking at a small school is that they think it's too small, right? 2,000 students, I'm gonna know absolutely everyone. And as an alum, someone who lived it, I can definitely tell you that's not the case. You will continually be meeting new people throughout your 4 years. Some of my best and closest friends, I actually didn't even meet until I was abroad. So it took a full ocean between us and campus our junior year, so 3 years into school, to actually meet. So that's something that I think is really a big misconception, is that size, is that you're going to know absolutely everybody. The other piece I kind of bring into that is when you do think about size with 2,000 students, when you think about it as far as high school, you really are in one building. So you are bumping into each other. You're seeing everybody. You kind of do get a feel that you kind of not know everybody very well, but you've seen absolutely everybody. On a college campus, you have more than one academic building that you're in. You're living in multiple different resident halls across campus. You have about 100 acres or more in some cases that you're living on. So you're not all right there together. You may go a few days before you even run into someone that you met the other day. But it also is that environment where if you go sit in the cafeteria by yourself or go to study in the library, someone you know is going to walk in at some point and you're going to be able to do, because it's not a massive campus at the same time. You're in that small academic setting and you're going to get to know enough people where you feel that you have very close friends, you have this tight-knit community, but you're not going to know absolutely everybody. The other misconception that I think we hear the most about, especially being a private college, is that we're so expensive, right? That's the sticker price that we get to. Private schools are going to have a larger sticker price, and you'll see the range anywhere from 40,000 up to 60, 70,000. One thing I can definitely tell you is do not write a school off just based off of their sticker price. Where we do a lot to make sure that you're affordable. And that goes beyond just St. Norbert saying that. That goes to all schools. Or scholarships are something that we want to make sure that your education is affordable. That first piece usually is that merit scholarship. So when you are applying to colleges, we are most of the time considering you for a not only a admission, but also for a merit scholarship based off of the information we have on your application. So your GPA, your test scores, if you're submitting that, and we'll talk a little bit about that application process in a minute, but you may also be eligible for additional scholarships as well as federal aid through that FAFSA. So when you do hear a small school and you are interested and you see that sticker price, don't take a school off your list just because of that, because trust me, it can be about as affordable as it can be to be going to a state institution in some cases. So something to kind of keep in mind with that. I'll turn it over to Josephine to talk a little bit more about misconceptions of the big school.
Yeah, thanks. And right there, the first one off the bat would be it's too big. And that is definitely not the case. You can definitely make a big school show small, and it really shows with our retention rate. So you get what's called a peer mentor right away at orientation. This is an upperclassman. So they will help you navigate your year. You also have a survey class, which is once a week with your actual advisor. So you'll be one-on-one with your advisor. So we really do a great job of making a big school small. Cost is another big thing. Like Kat said, oh, I can't go out of state. I only have to look in state. And I can guarantee you, like you can go out of state for less money than if you stayed in Illinois. So a lot of times people call me and be like, oh my God, you're actually cheaper than this school in Illinois. And that is definitely the case. So don't rule out a school just because they're out of state. And don't rule out a school because of what their sticker price is, because a lot of times we do have scholarships. So you're going to want to make sure you meet all the deadlines. So that's the most important thing, would be deadlines too. So we have scholarships on our campus. We have our National Buckeye, which is $13,500. That's our lowest, our first scholarship. That brings you down to almost in-state rate. And then there's more that you can just add on from there. The other thing is distance, like, oh, I really want to stay close within a certain amount of drive. And, I can tell you from having a son in another state pretty far away, he's actually at OU, he's a Sooner, and it's so easy to get to him. So I'm going next week. I'm very excited about it, but you can get on a plane and fly for an hour, land, and go 20 minutes, and he's there. So, I could fly to OSU in 50 minutes from Midway or O'Hare and be on campus then after I land and get my bags. The Uber ride is 10 minutes. So you can go to another school in another state, and it's really easy to get there. Flying is actually really easy, and it could be affordable too. So I go on Southwest a lot of times, and you can get it for under $100. But you can also drive. So we're only a 5.5-hour drive. So most of the Big Ten are going to be drivable for you as well. So whether it's you drive there or you fly there, they're all easy to get to. So don't let distance even kind of hold you back, because you might think, oh, but I want to come home, but you're really not going to want to come home. Or my parents might want to come visit, but you're really probably not going to want them to come visit. So you're going to want to enjoy school. And once you get there, you find your family, and you find your people. And so it's all about making those connections. And so don't let distance kind of is a big misconception, cost and size. And now we are going to go ahead and have Scott talk about misconceptions.
Yeah, so a couple of misconceptions here as it relates to OU or even mid-sized schools. We don't really get a lot of the too big, too small, could be your perspective. But the nice thing with medium-sized schools is we tend to fall right in the middle of the road. So that usually works well in our favor. But one thing is definitely cost as an out-of-state school, that folks will say that we are too expensive, and that it's going to be a lot more money to go out of state. But as Josephine and Catherine were just mentioning, that the sticker price isn't always what you're going to pay. So you're going to be getting scholarships and grants. There's going to be work opportunities, and other different financial aid assistance that you can get to help bring that cost down. So don't let the cost be something that would deter you away. Another thing too would be the distance. We're a 12-hour drive, so we are definitely farther. And the Big 12 schools, again, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. So we're not right around the corner. We're probably going to be flying to it. So I think that might be a hesitation that, oh gosh, I don't want to go to Oklahoma. It's far. But as Justin was just mentioning, it's not as far. And so don't let the distance be, something that would steer you away from looking at a school, whether it's Oklahoma or Texas, or even further west, like Arizona or California, or far out on the East Coast. Because as we mentioned tonight, within your classrooms and student organizations and living on campus, you're going to find a sense of community, and you're going to be able to make friends. And that distance, even if it is farther, is going to feel more like home. So, but that is one thing, I think, a misconception, that it's too far away, or I'm going to be the only one from Illinois coming to Oklahoma. That's definitely not going to be the case. We actually get students from all 50 states. So definitely let that know that distance, even though yes, further away doesn't always mean it's going to be that more difficult. And then last thing is that we're just all about athletics. That is a misconception that we get specifically at OU. I mentioned, at the beginning that we have 38 national championships. So it's a fun fact we like to lead with, but not everybody's going to be about sports and athletics. And there are other ways to have connections on campus that aren't sport related. So we actually have a very strong musical theater and a very strong dance major. So with our good performing arts programs, there's going to be tons of musicals and concerts and theater performances, things like that happening. We have some art galleries on campus. So if you're a lover of the arts, there's going to be a community for you. If you're a big volunteer, you can, helping your local community is a part of your passion, that you're going to be community for that on our campus as well too. So we're just not about athletics. There's going to be an aspect of campus life for all of our students. So even though you might not be a sporty person, don't let looking at a sporty school think that there won't be a place for you, because there will be a place for you. So that's going to be some misconceptions. And now we're going to, as we get closer to the end here, talk about our application process and what it looks like to apply to our schools. And Catherine's going to start us off.
Sure. Thanks, Scott. So we're going to talk first. I'm going to kind of define some terms that I think are important to know about the college admissions process, and maybe you've heard them already. You've got schools that you can apply early decision. You have schools that you can apply early action, and then you have schools that are rolling admissions. Early decision is basically a binding agreement between you and the school. When you apply an early decision to an institution, you're basically saying that if I'm admitted, I don't care what my financial aid is, this is where I want to be. You're one of the first applications reviewed, and if you are admitted, you basically have to withdraw your applications from other institutions that you've applied to, because you will be committing to go to that early decision school. Early action's a little bit different. Early action, you are still in the first applicant pool to be reviewed. There is a deadline similar to early decision, where there's a deadline typically in early November for those. And with early action, you're basically, again, first to be reviewed, but you're not committing to the school like you are with early decision. So you have the ability to look at a couple different schools, maybe you look at that financial aid a little bit better, but you are really saying that I'm a very interested candidate for your institution. Rolling admissions is a little different. St. Norbert is a rolling admissions school. I believe Oklahoma is as well, and OSU. So you no, yeah, early action, never mind. We'll all explain our own. Anyway, with rolling admissions at St. Norbert, when you apply and you submit your application, once it is complete, it is reviewed. So there is no deadline for you to actually submit an application, which is the worst thing I can ever tell a student. But you want to be keeping that timeline that you would still be if you were applying early action. Main reasons why, and you'll hear this from others, you don't want to miss deadlines for scholarships or anything that you might be eligible for financially. So with a rolling admission school, again, when you're submitting your transcripts, you can start that process as early as August is when most of our applications will open, and you have your full entire year to apply. But keep in mind, the earlier you do, the better your options are, again, for scholarships and financial aid as well. So some things to think of with that. I think Scott will go next.
Yeah, I'll do a little bit on our application process. So we do rolling admissions, like Kat was mentioning, so we're constantly taking applications and reviewing them. We do have some deadlines. So application opens August 1st. Our early action deadline, so nothing binding, but just some added perks of applying by that deadline. That's November 1st. So otherwise, December 15th is our scholarship deadline. That's not one thing you'd want to miss, because you want to be eligible for all the scholarships there are. So definitely apply by December 15th. Otherwise, our final application deadline is February 1st. So a little bit not as strict as those early decision schools, but definitely deadlines that you don't want to miss when it comes to our application process.
Yeah, and so we are early action, which is not binding. That's November 1st, and that is our merit scholarship deadline. So, I'm going to go jump into our piece of advice. That's what we're going to end with, is that mine is to make sure you keep a spreadsheet of where you want to apply, their deadlines, your visit date, and everything. Because if you miss a scholarship deadline, that could be the difference between you and $13,500. So that is my piece of advice for you. I also recommend applying to at least 5 schools. This way you have, you might think you really want to go somewhere, but when you get their financial aid package, it's something that's just a little stretch. So it's always good to have a few backup plans. We also have regular decisions. So early action, regular decision, just 2 dates, November 1st, February 1st. And then you have till May 1st to commit to us. So we are going to be virtual again this year for our orientation this summer. So we were last year, we will be again this year. But as Scott mentioned, we will be, the plan is to be at least 80% in-person classes. And I'm hoping within a month or so, we'll find out it'll be 100%. So our orientation will be virtual this summer. But so we definitely look forward to you visiting. Our visits have opened, so we do have in-person visits now again. So before you make any decision as to where you want to go, you should definitely step foot on that campus.
Absolutely agree, Josephine. I think one of the things, my piece of advice for students is this decision is really all about you. You're the one that's committing to living on this campus for 4 years, so you really have to like it. So getting there and visiting is really important, but don't just go with the flow. Look at a wide variety of schools. What is the best fit for one of your best friends might not be the best fit for you. So consider schools that maybe you haven't heard of. Again, using us as an example, maybe St. Norbert isn't a school that you've actually really ever heard of, but that doesn't mean just because you haven't heard of it, other employers haven't heard of it, and people who are going to potentially hire you haven't heard of our name and what the quality of the student is there. So that's something to kind of keep in mind too, is have a wide variety of options for yourself and really make sure that the school is a great fit for you.
And then my piece of advice is if you are looking at these colleges, looking at their list of majors, make sure that you find multiple majors that look good to you and you have an interest in. I think sometimes I work with students that have one major in mind and they're kind of focused in on one idea. And if that program doesn't work out for you, or if you want, let's say you want to become a dentist, but you're not really great with science, you're going to hit a point where you're at a crossroads because there's going to be a lot of science involved with becoming a dentist. So just make sure that whatever school you do choose and you do end up at, that there are multiple options that work for you. So even if you do become a dentist, if that was your first plan, then everything worked out. But just knowing that you maybe had a couple other majors that looked of interest to you just in case you had to go that route, that way you don't have to look at another school, things like that. I think that is a solid piece of advice. And for the students that are undecided, you're already doing that. You're already looking for schools that have multiple programs that sound good to you. So that's just my piece of advice. And I think that will bring us to the end here.
That does bring us to the end of our presentation. We hope you got an idea of small, medium, and big, and how we all are different with a lot of similarities, if that makes sense. Please, I don't see any questions in the Q&A, so we'll just open it up to your counselors and administrators to see if there's any questions you wanted to ask us.
Sure.
I just want to go ahead, Mr. Gatbutton.
I'm sorry about that. I'm wondering, if you could describe for us maybe what your parent engagement or parent orientation might look like for first-year families.
I can start. So for us at a small school, again, the advantage of a small school is we're able to have that in-person experience. So for this year, our orientation, rather than have a 2-day orientation, it's now a 1-day orientation on campus in person. So our students are allowed to bring one guest with them, and the parents will have a full portion of the orientation that is specifically for them, which will cover different topics, but some of the similar things that they would as the students that are getting that. So it is a 1-day in-person orientation for our students and a parent, and we're limiting that number of students on campus, obviously with COVID, and then there is some online portion to that, some things that we think that they can learn online and at home. But for us, our families will be able to be on campus for orientation this summer.
We're going to be online like Ohio State for our orientations, just because we didn't know where we were going to be in the summertime. So we just said, okay, we'll do orientation virtual. We do have a separate parent and family orientation that those members can sign up for. It will intersect with our student orientation. So some topics like affording OU will be things that the students will attend as well as parents and family members. So there will be some things there, but then when students are going on academic advising, the parents and family members will be having things about like, working with your student from afar or helping support them through college and things like that. So some different topics that are geared more towards those parent and family members, but then they'll come together for the topics that are similar for the students' experience too.
Yeah, and I did just put a link. We all have first generation programs on our campus. And so we do a great job of supporting our first gens. And so you know, at any of our campuses and any of the Big 10 and Big 12 and small, you're going to have a nice support system for first gen. So we want to make sure the parents are comfortable and the students. So there might even be programs where the first gen come to campus a little earlier also. So there's some like early arrival programs. So just go to the websites and be able to, you just type in first generation in the search bar and it'll bring you to that.
We also do family weekends. Dare I say that's why Josephine might be heading our way next weekend.
Yep.
So we've got usually a fall one and a spring one. So there'll be a weekend of events geared towards having family members come and visit their students for the weekend.
Yeah. Any other questions for us? That was great.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Catherine, Josephine, and Scott, for sharing all this wonderful information. I know it certainly helped me to gain a better understanding of what life looks like on a big, a medium, and a small campus and all the many aspects and features and twists and turns and nuances of the whole college experience. So thank you for that. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. John. I believe you had some closing remarks for us.
Always. Thank you. Thank you. As Dr. McCall has said, thank you guys for sharing all this information. It was a wealth of information, even for us professionals that have gone through this process. So much info, so many details, so many things to consider. So, to the students and the parents, just remember that we have a great group of school counselors and a college and career center that is here to support you. The information to digest all that and thinking about all that you must consider is very intense, and school counselors will be your first stop to answer some of those questions. And as you get more specific, and as you think about the different universities and specifics about programming and housing and financial aid and all those things, like that, these representatives, give their time because they understand how important this is, and they understand how helpful it is to find a place where they feel comfortable and they achieve their goals. So there's plenty of resources available to everybody, and it is an extremely large amount of information to digest. So there are resources within our building, within our district, that can help you, and the colleges and universities are so helpful as well in helping alleviate some of those concerns. So thank you guys for sharing all of that information. We are all in this group passionate about helping kids understand how this all works and how to figure out what's best for everybody financially, in terms of major, fit, all of those things. So resources are available. Please utilize those.
Can I say one more thing? Sorry.
Of course. Yes, please, Josephine.
I want to make sure we acknowledge also that we are very sympathetic to the students who are going through this COVID year, or now, missing things. And we are all going to be test optional next year. So I wanted to make sure we mentioned that. So test optional. And I also wanted to make sure that you need to put on your application everything that you even meant to do. So we understand that you probably missed out on some things. So we are in the business, we are your admission representative, and we want to admit you. So use us. We are in the area. I'm 20 minutes from Aurora. So we are here for you. So reach out to your college counselor as well.
Thanks, Josephine. Next week, everybody, we will have 2 more videos that will be released that provide some experience and information from a parent's perspective and a student perspective. And we just aim college admissions representatives, district admin, your school counselors, aim to just provide as much information as possible. So please look out for 2 more videos coming out in the next couple of weeks that will provide some additional perspectives from parents that have been through this, students that have been through this, and the more information that you could obtain from all the different resources available to you is the best key to figuring out how to do this and how to be successful. So please be on the lookout for more information from this parent group and the resources available to you. And thank you so much, everybody, for your time this evening and all the great information that you've provided.